What's this?
That's the script for tonight's episode. It also includes a few choice paragraphs about our movie, which I insist you keep secret.
I'd never talk to anyone about us anyway. Are you gonna make love to me now?
Two things. First, I don't make love. I review. Hard.
And the second thing?
This is movie night. Hello and welcome to Movie Night, in-depth film reviews in less than 5 minutes. I'm your host, Jonathan Paula. Tonight, for the third and final time on the show, I'll be taking a look at some higher profile releases from winter 2015, specifically 5 of that season's worst. I avoided them in theaters, but now that they're available on home media, I guess it's time to suffer through them. We'll begin with the first of the bunch, The Wedding Ringer. This so-called comedy film was released on January 16, 2015, where it depressingly tripled its $23 million budget under Jeremy Gerlich's direction. The extremely busy Kevin Hart stars in the title role as a best man for hire who becomes emotionally involved with his latest client, Josh Gad, an awkward and friendless millionaire looking for something more. Explaining his reasoning for dropping a middle-classer's yearly salary on an underhanded prank, Gad proclaims, "I want my real life to be as fun as the one I made up." Honestly, it plays out like a very typical rom-com narrative, except it's about a couple of mismatched dudes instead of a guy and a girl. Hart and Gad are both veterans of this type of lowbrow work by now, and while they're passably enjoyable characters, it's the premise itself which is so grating and annoying.
Doug, in the future, if somebody asks you something that boxes you in, you boomerang it.
Boomerang?
You respond with either a compliment or a question. Compliments are for women, questions are for men. So if I were to ask you something about Vic that you and I haven't discussed, what would you say, Doug?
You're very handsome.
Thank you, Doug. That's a compliment. Compliments are for women. Questions are for men. You throw out random words.
You're confusing me a lot right now.
You use random words that will distract them from the original question.
Random words.
We have 18 hours to prepare for this brunch with the Palmers, which means we have 18 hours for a shotgun intro. Let's get to work.
A certain amount of disbelief is understandable, but the "let's use $50,000 to trick the woman I'm about to marry into thinking I have a gaggle of dysfunctional friends" is downright insulting and ridiculous. It doesn't help either that the victim on the other side of this equation, the cute Kaylee Kuko Sweeting, is irredeemable herself. And while The Hangover proved it is possible to have a successful comedy despite being filled with unlikable and conspiring characters, this R-rated farce has no such luck. The 101-minute story has, at best, 3 jokes that actually work, thanks entirely to Hart's quick and witty delivery, and never the unbelievable script itself. A quick reference to Lost from Jorge Garcia that caps off the picture was pretty funny though. An extended mud-covered game of football with a group of old-timers, including an inspired appearance by Joe Broadway Namath, is a decently fun sequence, but it has zero relevancy to the rest of the story, and seems to exist only because Gerlich wanted some physical comedy in this picture. The only dynamic that isn't painful to watch is an underdeveloped romantic subplot between Hart and one of his bridesmaids, played by the curious Olivia Thirdley, who quickly begins to suspect this gentleman isn't what he seems. The summation of their trickery and deception is a PowerPoint presentation during the rehearsal dinner, where Hart and his employees showcase a string of poorly photoshopped images that make Gad's pitiful life seem more exciting. Not only would this charade fool no one, what's the endgame here? Going through life that wasn't built on a single lie, but an entire nest of preposterous bullshit? The drawn-out conclusion that sees all of these lies clumsily being revealed is handled well enough, but by then any interest I had in seeing these characters be nice to each other was gone. With nothing impressive about the technical or visual aspects of this movie, the only folks who might get something out of it are staunch fans of Hart. But let's be honest, he's in like 7 movies a year, so you're probably better off watching anything else. The Wedding Ringer is a mean-spirited chore with unpleasant characters. I thought it was a bad film. For tonight's poll question, what's your favorite movie of 2015 so far? Leave your response as a comment below. Next up, The Boy Next Door. Rob Cohen directs this erotic thriller which grossed an impressive 12 times its $4 million budget after its January 2015 release. The 91-minute story focuses on the torrid affair between unhappy wife Jennifer Lopez and her young hunky new neighbor Ryan Guzman. Things take a dangerous turn when he refuses to let go of their steamy relationship and continues to stalk her. Despite playing a character nearly 10 years his junior, the handsome Guzman is both charming and duplicitous, showing off his rugged biceps and six-pack abs at every opportunity. Opposite him is perhaps the best-looking 45-year-old on the planet. I mean seriously, Jennifer Lopez is a goddamn smoke show. The sultry romance between them is undeniably hot, especially when J-Lo finally succumbs to her basic instincts and sleeps with the aggressive teen, in a tastefully done scene that shows off plenty of skin. The reluctance and fear from Lopez elevates the dramatic portions of the film in a necessary way. Her talent and beauty saves the otherwise familiar and somewhat unbelievable story.
If you're having second thoughts, it's normal.
This isn't normal, okay? Nothing about this is normal. Where's my coat?
Would you just stop for 1 minute?
Look, Noah, I don't want you to think that any of this was your fault, okay? I'm the adult. I'm the one that should have...
Stop. Just stop. What we did wasn't wrong. No matter what you say, it wasn't wrong.
I wasn't thinking clearly, okay? I got swept up in the moment. I was vulnerable, and you're very sweet.
No.
And it was flattering.
No.
But
It was more than that.
When Jen sternly warns her new boy toy to stop following me, he coyly responds, "I'm not following you. I live next door." It's a chilling reminder of how inescapable this potential threat is for her. Later, in an effort to expose their naughty fling to her co-workers, Guzman fills an entire classroom with explicit photographs of their time together, which forces Lopez to frantically remove all of this evidence in a decently exciting sequence. But a faux action scene where two ancillary characters try to safely drive an out-of-control car is poorly executed and feels out of place in an otherwise more subtle narrative. Despite its short filming schedule of only 23 days, Coen makes the best use of the suburban sets, utilizing harsh lighting and shadows to really build tension during the more intense scenes. This generic Lifetime-esque domestic thriller doesn't do anything new or original, but it's skillfully shot and has above-average performances. When compared to its tamer cable TV counterparts, the decidedly R-rated and graphic treatment is a welcome addition as well. And while I wouldn't outright recommend this picture, it can still be an enjoyable diversion if you lower your expectations. The Boy Next Door has sexy thrills, despite being predictable to a fault. I thought it was meh. Now my thoughts on Jupiter Ascending. Written, produced, and directed by Lana and Andy Wachowski, this lumbering space opera just barely broke even when it was released in early February of 2015. The ambitious $176 million production centers around Mila Kunis, a lowly human who discovers she is the reincarnated heiress of intergalactic nobility and must fight to protect Earth from her newly adopted royal family's planetary conquest intentions. As a short synopsis, that's confusing enough, but when the original 600-page script is cut down to a hurried 127-minute narrative, the result is so much worse. Sporting an ugly blonde goatee, the muscular Channing Tatum is featured as a genetically engineered space marine who swoops in to save our heroine in practically every scene. When he engages some bad guys in an early shootout, it's impossible to feel any tension as we're given zero information about their weapons, physiology, or ethical code. Can these creatures die? Do they even feel pain? Why are they shooting at each other in the first place? Even when some 50% of the dialogue is people explaining things to Mila, I still find myself asking questions like this throughout the film, that sadly were never answered. When one character promises that they're not the enemy, it fails to carry any impact, as we honestly don't know if they're actually telling the truth or not. Kunis's charm and enthusiasm do help save some of the more ridiculous scenes, however, but she remains unbelievably unfazed by even the most insane stunts and events that unfold right around her.
This must be the hunter Titus hired. Well made, by the look of him.
Whoa, no. Hey, it's okay. She's on our side.
Abrasics don't know any side but their own.
Precisely. And since Jupiter is an Abrasix, you can understand why I helped to get off that planet.
He has contacted the Aegis. They are entering orbit now.
Excellent.
It's bad enough that this topsy-turvy universe is littered with nonsensical proper nouns like Aegeus, Skyjackers, and Lycotants, but when the only normal character is hard to connect with, the entire premise falters. The lack of any real emotional depth or strong characters doesn't help either. Speaking of which, the stoic Sean Bean is wasted in a mentor-like role where he's regulated to spouting wordy exposition about the magical properties of bumblebees. Following his Best Actor win for The Theory of Everything, Eddie Redmayne turns in a truly bizarre performance as this PG-13 rated movie's villain, an uncompromising warlord emperor who speaks all of his lines with an anguished whisper. It's an annoying and pointless character trait that ruins an otherwise decent performance, like when he explains his nefarious plans by softly saying,
Some lives will always matter more than others.
The Wachowskis were once the talented siblings that brought us The Matrix, Speed Racer, and Cloud Atlas, all thought-provoking and visually interesting movies. With their latest misguided effort though, they just decided that they could, and never stopped to think if they should. Sure, there are some glimpses of really incredible concepts in this picture. Watching Magic Mike slide around Naboo on his moon boots looks pretty cool, but when everything is such a hodgepodge of half-baked thoughts, it's impossible to be invested in any of it. Indeed, the movie is even difficult to follow from a visual standpoint. Far too many frames are full of explosions, ships, lasers, and whatever else the folks at Framestore crammed in there. The alien worlds are colorful and vibrant, but never adequately explored, feeling more like a generic chroma key backdrop than a true physical environment. Carefully layered beneath the multitude of cool sound effects, though, is a great score from Michael Giacchino, which might be the best thing going for this movie. Mixing rhythmic drums and a chanting choir, it almost comes close to the scope of his fantastic work on Star Trek. Fans of futuristic sci-fi or big-budget train wrecks might find redeeming qualities here, but everyone else should stay away. An unfortunate disappointment, Jupiter Ascending has fun action and ideas buried in an incomprehensible mess. I thought it was a lame movie. Before we continue, a quick plug for my Patreon. If you'd like to help support what I do for a living and ensure that I have enough time and money to keep producing awesome shows like Movie Night, Don't Eat the Spam, or The World According to John, please consider pledging a few dollars at patreon.com/JohnPaula. Doing so will also unlock special perks like early access to my uploads and exclusive uploads just for Patreons. The money is a big help, so I greatly appreciate the 75 wonderful people who have already donated. Back to the reviews though, let's discuss 50 Shades of Grey. Based on the hugely popular novel of the same name by E.L. James, this $40 million erotic romance film was an international hit, grossing over $500 million in profit after its Valentine's Day weekend release. The best-selling source material was originally developed as Twilight fan fiction, which makes this first-time author's success so much more surprising, and perhaps even perplexing. The writing is pedestrian, the characters tired stereotypes, and the narrative slow and pointless. Saying director Sam Taylor Johnson had his work cut out for him would be an understatement. Relative unknown Dakota Johnson stars as a timid college student who gets involved with an aggressive yet tormented billionaire played by the tall, dark, and handsome Jamie Dornan. When the playboy cautiously invites her to engage in rough sexual activities, the hesitant virgin quietly asks, "What would I get out of this?" Dornan confidently responds, "Me." This is their movie, for better or worse, as the small supporting cast is of little importance. Given the stilted and poorly conceived dialogue, their performances are honestly commendable, but it still doesn't make them very convincing. A scene where they quickly banter over sex contract negotiations is decently amusing, though.
I would like to bite that lip.
I think I'd like that too.
I'm not gonna touch you. Not until I have your written consent.
What?
I'll explain later. Come on, take you home.
In what was clearly a financial decision rather than a creative one, the picture's watered-down R rating is its death knell, as a more liberating NC-17 cut would have actually given the film some much-needed excitement. The most annoying aspect of this erotic drama is how unremarkable everything is. The mature themes are poorly explored, and the kinkiest bedroom antics are tamer than stuff you'd see on network television. After its much-hyped reputation, 50 Shades of Grey disappoints with nothing but a few ass taps and bound wrists. Sure, the titular character has an entire room filled with weird and provocative sex toys, but Johnson literally vetoes 95% of them from the outset. Now don't get me wrong, watching the beautiful and handsome newcomers disrobe was sufficiently hot, but once they get to the bedroom, the movie went flaccid. Now this is particularly detrimental as the sex scenes constitute nearly a full 14 minutes of the 2-hour runtime. From a production standpoint though, at least Taylor Johnson utilized remotely controlled cameras during these more intimate moments, allowing our naked protagonists a bit more privacy on set. It's just unfortunate such allowances didn't contribute to their lackluster chemistry any. Even though there's a few unnecessary and extraneous scenes involving aerial adventures, the cinematography from Seamus McGarvey is surprisingly competent, framing the highly contrasted environments in slow-moving close-ups. Meanwhile, an effective blend of popular music from Skylar Grey to Beyoncé is incorporated rather well, alongside Danny Elfman's original score. The sexually restrained and naturally curious might be able to take something away from this film, but its insulting treatment of BDSM culture is a pathetic waste of time. 50 Shades of Grey remains unbelievable and uninteresting, despite its ample nudity. And here's some of your YouTube reviews. Calling it punishment and a turd sandwich, you rated this garbage. I was slightly more lenient, but I still thought this was pretty bad. Lastly tonight, Hot Tub Time Machine 2. Released on February 20th, 2015, this $14 million follow-up from returning director Steve Pink was thankfully a commercial disappointment, earning only $13 million at the box office. While the original was a decently diverting comedy, this 93-minute experience is the sequel no one asked for. The entire plot is just a lame extension of the first film's coda, which existed as the throwaway joke, rather than a setup to some half-baked sequel. To be fair though, Back to the Future 2 was born out of the same joke retconning, and that film definitely didn't suck. The pointlessly convoluted plot sees Rob Corddry, Craig Robinson, and Clark Duke reprising their roles as time-traveling idiots who inadvertently visit the year 2025, where they have to prevent a murder from happening in the past.
Who's this?
I think it's Jacob.
Why am I bald? What did you do?
I didn't do that. You look like a pedophile dressed you. You look like a Jewish Jason Statham. You look like Michael Chiklis Big Daddy Warbucks who Lex Luthor.
That's what it is. And who's the little doggy? What's he do? What's he just doing there like this? Why are you f***ing that doggy? Why would I be f***ing the dog?
Power over nature.
This trio play off each other extremely well, but they're just not worth rooting for, as they're all vile, vindictive assholes. Insulting Corddry and Robinson because they exclaim high five instead of actually high-fiving, Duke remarks, "That's the laziest thing I've ever heard." This obvious observation of their unambitious behavior is emblematic of the film's failed sense of humor. Save for a brief cameo in the unrated version, John Cusack, who played the necessary straight man role in the first film, smartly sets this picture out, replacing his spot on the roster as Adam Scott, who is far too peppy and annoying to really be funny. Joining his fellow Daily Show alum is Jason Jones in a wonderful supporting role, but it's Christian Slater as a manic game show host who is particularly great. While the first installment had clever jokes, fun references, and amusing situations, this R-rated mess is nothing but a string of sophomore hijinks and stupid gross-out gags. There's seriously 10 full minutes devoted to a gay rape scene. Oh, but don't worry, in the future this forced homophobic intercourse is virtual. Accomplished with convincing visual effects work, some futuristic sight gags can be amusing, but a recurring joke involving a vengeful, self-driving smart car was just stupid. There's neat concepts here, and it's somewhat interesting to see these characters again, but Hot Tub Time Machine 2 is far too mean-spirited and unfunny to really be entertaining. I thought it was bad. Finally tonight, a look at what you're saying about movies currently playing in theaters. If you see a new movie in theaters, tweet your review at the JPMN hashtag. Next week we'll be reviewing 3 brand new releases: Mad Max Fury Road, Pitch Perfect 2, and Tomorrowland. If you've seen these movies, share your opinions by voting in the polls below or by leaving a comment review. I read all of them and will include the best in the next episode. If you'd like to watch more movie night videos, check out the related reviews on the right, or click subscribe if you'd like to see more of this show in the future. Also, be sure to follow me on social media for updates and exclusive content between episodes. Once again, my name is Jonathan Paula. Thank you for watching and listening. Until next time, have a good movie night.